I'm in a new file here called volume analysis, and we will be making volume surfaces in this tutorial video, and then using that to generate a cut fill summary report. So all of the profiles we made, you should have made 6. I just have 2 for demonstration. You should have 6. Are really good for communicating overall change in elevation, what your new grading is, especially for your features. That's the most important part of your site. But we also need a way of kind of quantifying and calculating your overall cut and fill, putting actual numbers to the stuff. So there's importance in both things that we're doing, both the profiles and the summary report that we'll generate. Both have their uses. This one is much better for visualization. So going back over to our site, we are going to create volume surfaces. And volume surfaces essentially encode volume, but also cut and fill for the surface. If we go over to the Analyze tab, I don't think we've done anything here besides using the Drive tool, but we will be opening up the volumes dashboard here. This volume dashboard is where you can create volume surfaces, and you can see that right here under the gold star icon, create new volume surface. So here we can give our surface a name, so I will call this, for example, concrete pad volume. And here you can specify a base surface and a comparison surface. So EG is our base. The comparison surface here is the concrete pad. You might be thinking, can't we just compare the existing ground to the finished ground, right? That has all of our changes that we made. And the answer is yes, you definitely can. The reason why we're doing it this way has to do with breaking things up into components and parts. If we compare the existing grade to the final grade directly, those two surfaces, we'll get our overall cut and our overall fill. We can compare them, but you don't know how much cut and fill is coming from each object that you're designing or grading, and that can be a problem if you don't reach the cut or fill that you want. And you'll see that here in a couple minutes, if I am not mistaken. So we'll do this one object at a time. So I'll do the concrete pad first. These factors have to do with materials and like volume expansion or contraction. For example, say you have a bunch of compacted sand in your ground and you're taking it out. Then when you take it out, it might take up more space, so that cubic yardage is larger, actually. Or another case could be like clay absorbing water might change its volume. So that's why those are there, but we'll just ignore those and put them to 1 feet and 1 feet for now. I also want to draw your attention to the styling here. I think the volume surfaces are best as no display. You don't need them. But if you wanted to see what they look like, change your surface style to this one here, cut and fill banding, and you'll see what that looks like here. So it actually colors in the amount of cut and fill you have. So I think this is 1 foot of cut, and then this is like 2 feet of fill. So there is a color scheming here. I don't really understand how it works too much, so I typically just turn the style to be no display. So in our volumes dashboard here, you can see some information such as the 2D area, the adjusted cut and the adjusted fill in cubic yards, and then the net cut and fill. There's also this little graph, which I think is a pretty helpful visualization, so that exists there. From here, we can essentially repeat this for the rest of our surfaces. So go through and make these the same way that I have been. So I call this, for example, sidewalk volume. To no display. And make sure you're selecting EG as the base surface every time, and then the comparison surface is up to whichever one you're doing. Okay, so I finished with my volume surfaces. You can see my 4 here. You should have around 4 as well, I believe. And here you can see the adjusted cut and fill. You can see the pond especially is a huge cut, which makes sense because we're removing a lot of material for that. So a couple of things to consider here. One, truck, so like a dump truck, is you can think about it around 10 cubic yards of material can fit in a dump truck. So every 10 cubic yards of material you either need to take and bring to your site or haul away from your site is time and money, right? So we want to limit the number of trucks we need, and the limit for this project is going to be about 150 cubic yards, so about 15 truck hauls. That can be in either direction, whether that's cut or fill. It will likely be in the cut direction because of the pond, but it could be either. And we want to try to limit to 150. Now, if you're at like 160, 170, that's okay. But if you're at like 200, 300, 400, we need to find a way to push that number down. So I want to show you two different ways you have of calculating or generating your cut fill report. The first one is the gold star icon here, which is generate cut fill report. This will make an HTML page. So if I click on it, it's going to take me to my browser here. And so you can see that here, it has all of our different volume surfaces and then a total at the bottom showing our total cut, total fill, and the net. The other option you have here, and this is the one you need to do for your project, is generating the report into Civil 3D. So I can click this button right here, the very right one, pop it down, and you can see this report is here. I might use the Properties tab to scale it up a little bit. So maybe like 20 and 20. And you can see it's the exact same information that we were just looking at on the web page. This is static. Just keep that in mind. If you change anything and then you look at this, it won't change. So you need to recreate this every time you want to update your summary. You can see here, though, that I'm at 265 cubic yards of cut. So that would be about 27 trucks instead of 15. So I need to think of ways to reduce that number. One thing that is really powerful about the method we've been using is most of the things we're doing are dynamic. So we have the feature lines and we assign the elevations. The grading objects are built off of the feature lines, and the grading objects will update if we update the feature line elevations. And then the surfaces we made off of those are dynamic and based off of the feature line grading objects, so those will update if we change any of these. And then lastly, the volume surfaces are made based off of the surfaces that we created, so those are also dynamic. So you can see here the power of having this kind of workflow in Civil 3D. You can go through, do your initial design, see that, okay, I need to reduce my amount of cut, so I might need to raise things in elevation. You can quickly make that change, just refresh or rebuild your surfaces and regenerate your report, and you now have a new cut fill and you didn't have to redo all of your work, right? So that's the power of this workflow. Some quick tips, related / unrelated. One thing I would do is use the layer off button in the home tab to turn off your alignments. They're all on one layer, so you can just turn those off, and they can take out some visual clutter in your site. This prospector tab also functions a lot like a file manager, so you can actually right-click the surfaces icon and create a folder. So if I want to put all of my volume surfaces in one folder, for example, I can do that. Come here and move them all in there, and then I can also create a folder with like object surfaces, for example, and then another one that is like master surfaces. So I might put EG and FG in the master surfaces and put the rest of these in my object surfaces. So just a little bit of organization tips right there for you. Now I want to adjust my cut and fill. If I look at it, you can see that unsurprisingly, the pond cut is really what's driving my cut fill value here. So I want to reduce the cut there. So I have a couple options. I could reduce the height of it. I could increase the entire elevation of the pond, which is maybe what I'll do. So I'll select my pond feature line. This is what everything is built off of. Go to the elevation editor, and I'm just going to raise this all up 1 foot. So I use this increment tool set to 1 foot, and you can see it changed all of these elevations. Now, what it also did is updated all the grading automatically. So now I will just save quickly and then rebuild my out-of-date items, my surfaces. And now if I, were to look at my design, my pond is 1 foot higher than it used to be. You can maybe tell that. I've looked at this for a little bit, so I can tell. You might be able to. But the visual for me, and the visual indicator is this hill is not as deep. So what I can do now is go back to my Analyze tab and the Volumes dashboard. And it looks like it's hidden here. So Volumes dashboard. And now you can see, instead of having a 284 cubic yard cut, I have a 96 cubic yard cut. So if I regenerate this report, put it down somewhere, it did make it just really, really small. I'll delete the old one and scale up this big one. I'm using tab, by the way, to go through these boxes. Just pressing the tab key. You can see my net cut is now 77.35 cubic yards. So think about how long that change took me. If I wasn't explaining it to you guys, I would have been able to make that change in 30 seconds. And I went from 280 cubic yards to 77, right? So that's the power of surfaces and grading and feature lines. You need to generate a report like this. Again, aim for that 150 or lower mark. That can be cut or fill, doesn't matter. You need to generate, you should already have your 6 profiles, but you also need to generate this summary and include this on a plan sheet. You can either make a dedicated sheet for this or just put it on any of your other sheets that you need to make as well. You are almost done with the deliverable. There is one last thing to do, and it won't take very long at all.